right, let's move on to our next session. We now move on to our e-commerce track. We have none other than Mr. Alessio Romeni, the Chief Revenue Officer at Zalora, Southeast Asia's #1 online fashion and lifestyle destination. Having spent over 7 years at Zalora, he is currently the P&L owner of 4 key markets in the region: Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Malaysia, and takes care of pricing, campaigns, personalization, and analytics around conversion rates. Alessio, the stage is all yours. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Bradit, and good morning, evening, or afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the invitation. It's a true pleasure. So I'll share a few slides. Hopefully you can see my screen. And I think again it beats nicely from what we just heard. The idea is sharing a few example, I would say, on conversion and personalization with a specific intent to look at retention. And again, we deliberately thought with the organizer to make a little bit more of a practice session on sharing some concrete examples, since I think we all know more of the theory, and again, some of the other panelists are sharing a bit more theoretical guidelines, which are extremely helpful when this one is more about how to put them in practice. So this is the quick agenda. As always, I mean, maybe I'm skewed on the analytical front, but always good to start with some numbers and put things in perspective. So here there's a few numbers, and later I'm also happy to circulate the slide. But I think that the key point, just to put things into context, are one, that Southeast Asia is by far the fastest growing market. And again, this was true before this year, but it's going to be true even more later, with the highest CAGR across the world in terms of e-commerce. And this is due, of course, from the population, but also from a lower share of penetration of e-commerce, which is not even double digit, right, versus all the other markets. And I think that's something extremely important to consider and think about, right, when we think about all the topics of personalization and segmentation, because this one means that a lot more people than in other markets will move to digital, also from other industries, right? So it's not just about acquiring market share, but it's also acquiring a different type of customer that are not as digital savvy as the one that were before. The other pretty important topic to consider is the fact that 2020, actually, we experienced 5 years in one, right? So if you see the statistics in the middle, the penetration jumped. Basically, we achieved in 2020 what Goldman Sachs was expecting to achieve in 2024. So there's not really any time to think too much strategic, and definitely need to move into practice. The other very important data point is the fact that the great majority of consumers, especially in our market, have tried a new digital app, and this includes new platform, but also new brands. And there's a general interest in trying new brands, new product, less brand loyalty. Again, before we go into the example of Zalora, just a few trends that we are picking up that hopefully can be helpful also for the audience to relate with their market or their company. I mean, I skipped here all the normal trends of e-commerce, which I think we are all now familiar with. But just pointing out a few more in Southeast Asia is much faster growth. So growth, has big implication, right? Because it means that your company 2-3 years down the line will be significantly different, and that's something that you need to keep into consideration. So a CAGR of 30% means that you more than double in the next 3 years, right? So scale also starts to matter. Clear impact of video streaming and gaming, and the overall need of content, which is true across, but particularly true in Southeast Asia, which is a app-first geography, right? So mobile penetration in countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines is actually higher than Europe, because they skip the desktop phase. And that's a very important point to consider for basically anything we do is app first. Value for money is considered by almost any country in any industry the first criteria to purchase. And that's, of course, relate pretty well to then what it means, right, for loyalty and retention. Big category shift, I mean, that's pretty straightforward. I think if you all think as a customer, you experience this. A bit more general trend that probably more specific to our vertical, but that also will help explain why we did what we did, is a generally higher partnership with our brands, whereby e-commerce is growing, digital is growing, but offline is not going to go anywhere, right? So it will come back, and when it come back, whoever has a strong digital presence will probably thrive even more. So the important part is not moving everything to online for some of the brands, and player like us plays a very pivotal role. So depending on where your brand stays, this might have different implication. Then of course the logistics setup with the clear need of contactless journey, which probably will stay for years to come, right? But this big shock is here to stay. And a very surprising trend, and again, we're very happy to see that actually the pandemic somehow probably reassessed a bit the overall value, and even more than before, user, especially the young generation, so Generation Z, is actually more, it pays more attention to the matter of the sustainability and circular economy, and they are clearly willing to pay a premium for it, which also allows right company to invest a bit more. So hopefully we also have a way to do things better than before. Then of course, super app and everything brings it all together. And then of course, personalization, it becomes something, I would say, necessary, right? Not even a plus to have, but something that as a basic, you should always have. Now with this in mind, I thought about 3 examples that can probably help to pass the message a little bit better, and 3 things that we did in Zalora around the topic of personalization, retention, and of course with always a focus on conversion. I mean, for us being a revenue team, we live and breathe conversion rate, so relate very much to what was shared earlier in terms of growth hacks and experimentation. So the first one is actually a slightly different perspective on personalization, and it's a bit of a counterintuitive question, but how can you personalize it if you don't have it, right? And what we realize in this period is that personalization approach also means that you listen much more closely, and as we discussed also earlier, right content at the right time in the right platform, but you need to have that offer, right? And with the trends moving as fast as ever, we realized that we didn't have as much product to fully offer a personalized journey, and a lot of the purchasing behavior changed over time, but changed extremely quickly, which allow us to basically brought us to realize that we had to offer a completely different type of category, both to survival, but also for really offer what the customer really needed at that point and build a different type of loyalty. So again, with all these things in mind, what we did was we launched, and this one was a pretty big departure, right, from our initial statement and mission statement, but with all the external shocks that the economy received, somehow became relevant. So we introduced two new categories: luxury, so a completely different assortment, and essential supplies. And clearly we had to reshape everything, right? So all the things that we worked on before had to change. So this one was a significant impact also for the customer, but again, done in looking at cohorts of different type of customer allowed us to make the relevant changes to still offer a consistent experience. And then that's what then became what we started to personalize even more, right? So different categories are pushed with different affinities. So there's a lot of intent and modeling behind how customers signals what they will want to buy over time. Because of course, with more assortment, it's like you suddenly are in a much bigger supermarket than before, and you used to go to that supermarket to buy something. and now you go there to buy something, but you also find something else which you used to buy in different ways with different thought process, right? That was the big challenge, but also what paid back. So of course, different categories mean different journey for the customer and different selection process, which also meant different expectation in terms of navigation. So for example, the entire filtering had to be revamped, sorting, so the way in which we display the product had to change, because we couldn't use the same KPI. And we started much more than before all the cross-sell, right, which was not purely an increase the basket size, but basically merge two different needs, right? Because if you think about why would you want to buy a luxury product versus the traditional shopper that we had, the occasion behind it was probably different than before. Then this also allows us to unlock a few more levers that are extremely relevant for retention and engagement in this period, which is more related to live streaming, which works specifically well for beauty, but also for other brands. And other brands, of course, start to build, linking back to the trend that we saw earlier on Omnichannel, start to build that presence much more. Now, maybe I shared here a few screenshots just to show, right, what that meant. But here you see, for example, a personalized pop-up based on browsing history and affinity. So this is something that you receive based on the type of customer, so the segment that you belong to, what you've been purchasing. And depending on the interaction that you have, you might see it again, or you might see other similar stuff. And again, especially for beauty, the messaging that is pushed depends on how you've been browsing, right? So we try to estimate why would you want to buy beauty based on what you've been buying before. The other interesting on beauty is a more of a, so merging the new category with the need of content. The one that you see on the right basically allowed us to have a much more content-rich journey where the customer not only could shop, but could also learn and engage and spend time on the app, right? Which was a very important thing. I think overall, people spend 3 to 5 hours a day on the app in general, right? Not just on Zalora, clearly, but and that, of course, the need of content and of giving people something more to do was something extremely relevant. Now, all of this, how does this translate? Because I mean, as always, it sounds good, but it always needs to translate into something practical. So the practical is that the new categories were the top. Actually, I mean, launched less than 6 months ago, were actually the top in the recent Black Friday, Cyber Monday campaign, both on the luxury and beauty, right? So really suggesting why listening to the personalized element was so important. One of the most important thing was time spent, grew over double digit in H2 and is actually still growing. And then again, since we talk about retention, right? Over 50% of only apparel, right? So historically, we've always been an apparel and shoe business. Over 50% of the only apparel customer actually bought and tried a new category in 2020. And this was definitely the result of a lot of different targeting and cross-selling using data. Again, you see a few more numbers there, but definitely going in the right direction. The second experiment, which is probably the one that I'm more happy about and proud of, it's CashBack, right? So again, this merges together the need of offering value for money, the acknowledgement that we have IE discount on the website, and again, it's something that our customer is looking at, and there's no point to go away from it, right? So we just embrace it and leverage it. But also the big risk, right, of customer being a bit less brand sensitive and more, let's say, more ready to try a new platform, which further pushed us to do something around loyalty and repurchase rate. So what we basically did was, I mean, we launched as simple as it can seem, right? A cashback program, which though has pretty big implication across different levels, right? Because on one side is clearly giving money back to people is the best way to create loyalty, right? You create an even bigger reason to stay. But cashback allows us to do it in a same profitable way, if not better, because of course you trigger some sort of repurchase. But this also gives you more flexibility in the way we trade, because it's one more mechanics. And again, with people being more digitally savvy, novelty in the way we trade is almost as important as the discount level that you give. And then the last part is that not everybody likes it. Again, as we of course think about segment and then loyalty. So it doesn't mean that you have to show it to everyone, right? So for someone that already knows that is going to buy again in Zalora, it's going to be a very good deal. Other people might not be interested, and we don't necessarily have to show it to them. The other implication were that from a marketing point of view, right, it becomes cheaper to acquire, and to the point that we saw also earlier, if you build a model that somehow signals the probability of a customer to be in your top percentile of customer, you can disproportionately give cashback and further improve the experience in the first few orders, right? Which is actually one of the most important KPIs, the second order, right? So the fact that not only you buy once, but you actually come back. And if you trigger in the right way first-time user with cashback, they will have an even bigger incentive to repurchase later on. The last part on cashback, which again is something we are still working on, but it goes very much in the omnichannel discussion, is the fact that we are starting to discuss with our partner to bring it offline. So it's going to be the perfect bridge, right, to create a seamless experience between online purchase and offline for some of the top brands that we have, right? So you can go in one of your brands, try out, or get scan a QR code, get some cashback, and use it on Zalora, and vice versa. So that's something that we are trying to build in terms of ecosystem. Again, here I just put some screenshot on the key things, but again, on one side is how it actually works, but the banners on top these are actually taken live just now. So it's an engagement for 12/12 that not everybody sees, but also a way to create a repurchase. And then again, as always with the growth hacking hats, we always keep testing, right? So, and in this case, we actually love this A/B test because it was actually the best way to test the sensitivity and substitution, right, between a normal voucher and an actual cashback. You literally give the option, so you have the cleanest data for an ABS. Now results. Cashback already generates 20% of the total sales, but again, I think the real key driver is order frequency, increase almost double digit. Of course, to be fair, we do have some like-for-like comparison with not the best period, but again, it is increasing a lot, and we reactivated over 100,000 customers, which again, reactivated customers are usually more profitable than the marginal customer that you acquire with extra spend, right? Because those customers are not usually getting back your CLV right away. And then as you build the CLV model, there's what is called payback, right? So different subset and segment of customer have different payback, and the shorter the payback, the higher the cashback that you can give. But humans are still humans, so the elasticity is more or less the same, right? So those customers will convert more, and then will be a higher CLV customer over time. And then of course churn, it's an automatic relation, and churn was reduced as well. So again, overall, definitely something that fits both in the personalization side, because not everybody sees it. We don't show it in the same way. And again, there's still a lot to work on. And probably one of the best in activity and initiative that we took for loyalty and retention. The last one, I mean, I was discussing with the organizer, and we thought about sharing a bit high level how customer lifetime value and loyalty are in Zalora. And again, I added a few topics here. I think the most important part I want to show is one is the data, right? So definitely being able, one of the biggest success of this year was measuring it, because again, you don't know what you don't know, right? And I think that's often a mistake that is done. You don't know exactly what you're maximizing for, and you don't even know the value of what you're trying to maximize. So locking that is one of the first big steps. And we do have a what we call ZNow program, so a program that basically allows the customer to be treated in a slightly different way. But we have a pretty cool plans next year to add some more technology, so some augmented and virtual reality feature, like virtual room and shoe fit, just for some of these customers. Not everybody wants it, right? But some customers will definitely appreciate it. The biggest project is probably around something on Z Club. Again, I can't share too much because I will save it as hopefully next year I can tell you how it went, but to really create a parallel ecosystem, right? So not just discount is less relevant than before, in the sense that this year the level of discount is pretty high. So you also need to find other way to create loyalty, and creating an ecosystem where the customer can be part of it, especially for some of the top customer or for some of the customers, is going to be very important. And again, there's a few more details. Probably we're running out of time, so I won't cover them, but happy to discuss if there's any question. Now, to summarize, I think that's probably the most important part. And again, my point of view on our journey and the key learning that we saw, and that I hopefully can help you in thinking for your business or for your just general knowledge. So overall, again, we covered it partially earlier, right? Clarify what you're optimizing for, and it's not always clear, and most importantly, it's not clear across the entire organization, and that creates a lot of internal friction and opinion. And invest in being able to measure it, right? That for us was one of very big learning. Until, I mean, we know that we want to optimize for what we call PC2. We had to spend a lot of time to actually measure it in a very clean way, so that then you can just work with that, right? Again, personalization sounds very fun and sexy, but again, sometimes you just need to start from what you're offering. And again, for us, the big learning was that we were very, very focused on long-term personalization, and the risk is that you miss what's happening right under your eyes, right? Which is a different requirement from a category point of view, or from an offering point of view. Now more than ever, this level of uncertainty requires a very big amount of flexibility. But I think this flexibility is not just about as an organization, but is also about as the mental exercise and definition, right, of retention and personalization. So be ready to adapt those based on the context. I think then one probably more pragmatic is splitting between the long-term vision, where you have to enable a system which allows you to do that and use the data, versus a short-term angle of what is actually needed at that point of time. Customers are not all the same, and again, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you give them all the same opportunity. But you can also use some of the personalization tools at your advantage, right? So if you can charge someone more with the same result, you should. If you can penalize someone that is not adding value, you should not give the same perks, right? And that's something that for us, we started to implement it, and it's giving a lot of value, because again, almost anything in life is Pareto distributed, right? So if you can really cut the tail on some of the things, your total value will go up. Value for money and omnichannel will stay. So the consistent experience between devices, but also between offline and online is extremely crucial. And again, at least for us, we clearly saw that retention levels are now different, right? Much less around discount and more about being loud, in the sense that there's definitely a lot of competition. A lot of people are trying to catch the market. Social commerce is definitely going to be needed, but then just be authentic and be human in the way you communicate. So that's pretty much it. I just want to leave you with it's actually one of my favorite books. I think I found this quote extremely relevant for this timing. has a lot in it, right? And the fact that change, it's a way to stay how you are, right? Again, if you, and I think that's something that it should be embraced a bit more in business overall. So yeah, I'll stop sharing and pass it back to you, Prayut.
Sure. Thank you so much, Alessio. You were so on point with the insights that you shared, particularly the ones around how you guys are driving personalization using affinity and demand models. Also, the fact that your cashback program actually is helping lower customer acquisition costs. That was an amazing insight. Thank you so much for sharing those trends across Southeast Asia, what you think is going to happen in 2021 as well. It's been a pleasure and a delight to have you on our event today. Thank you so much for making the time.